missing features. The number one was airport, surprisingly. Printing, location manager, etc. These are features that just didn't make it into the beta. Airport missed it by about 2 weeks. I'm pleased to report that all these features are now in the OS, as well as many others that we just didn't have at beta. And the last category was key concerns. People had some key concerns, and the most frequent ones were the Apple menu, clock in the menu bar, disks on the desktop, control strip, and the Finder toolbar is awfully big and horsey. So we listened to these concerns very carefully. And if you've noticed, Mac OS X has been evolving all throughout 2000 based on feedback that we've gotten from our developers and our users, and we're not stopping. And we've added some new features in Mac OS X, and I would like to show them to you right now. One that nobody asked for, but we added anyway, was this new screensaver. It's kind of cool. It goes and finds all your icons and makes a cool screensaver. But let me show you one other thing that's kind of neat. We have another one in. Whoops, I didn't want that. We have another one in here, which you can own pictures in, and it will go ahead using OpenGL and cross-dissolve and zoom them into each other. And it's really beautiful. So I threw some pictures of a beach up here, but you can have pictures of your family or your dog or, you know, our products or whatever you want. But it's really nice, something you've never seen on a computer before. And it turns your computer into this most gorgeous digital picture frame when you're not using it. All right. We'd all like to be there. So, I'm going to run through a few things very quickly, just in case some of you have never seen Mac OS X. As you know, you can move windows around real time, not just the outlines. They resize real time, as you've seen before. And one of the things that has really worked out well has been Sheets. As you know, in Mac OS today, when the OS wants to tell you something, it throws up a panel which can get disconnected from the window that it applies to. It gets very strange when you start to work on many applications at once and you don't know which window the panel applies to. We've gone to what we call Sheets. When the OS wants to interact with you on a document basis, it throws up a sheet, and you can interact with it, in this case, a save panel. Very simple. When your window gets very small, it goes like this. And as you can see, it even moves away from the side if you're too close to the edge. Okay? Very, very simple. And I guess Sheets also illustrates something we're trying to do with Mac OS X that's really important to us. To make it more powerful, yet at the same time easier to use. And that's a tall order to do both of those at the same time. So here we have a save panel that's the simplest save panel you've ever seen. You name the document, and you pop down a list, and you tell it where you want to save it. Couldn't be simpler. But what if where you want to save it isn't in this list? Well, in that case, the advanced user just pops this up, and they can traverse the whole file system right here and say they want to put it here, they want to put it in documents, and they just add to, they can, you know, anywhere else in the file system they want to go. They can add anything to favorites as well, or replace a favorite, and very, very simple. So we have complexity and we have simplicity built into the OS at the same time. Now, we also have the dock down here. And the dock, as you know, is a great place to put applications, and it's a great place to put documents. So, as an example, I can grab some more apps and drag them down into the dock. And as you know, you can see the dock just shrinks as we add more to it. I can also minimize things into the dock. Right now on the Mac OS, when you minimize things, it's not the perfect experience to get that window shade. It kind of clutters up your screen. Here, again, things minimize right into the dock. I'll get another picture up. And again, just minimize them right into the dock. They come up right where you left them. If you've never seen this in slow-mo before, let me just show you in slow-mo so you can see the production value of which this happens at. It's pretty wonderful. Okay. Now, one other thing that the dock allows for us to do is we can set its size. So I'll go to System Preferences here, and I can set the dock size to be as large as it can be, or I can even set it to be smaller. So at a maximum, it will be this size. But when the dock gets small, if I want to grab something really fast, it might be hard to see, so I can turn on magnification, just like this. Right? Isn't that nice? And I can even hide the dock if I don't want to see it, and when I bring it up, it'll just come up when I move to the bottom of the screen like this. Very simple, very unobtrusive. It's pretty wonderful. Okay, that is the dock. Now, what I'm going to do now is bring up a QuickTime movie and just show you one other fun thing about the dock. This is a movie trailer here. I'll just bop into where we get a little action. Watch this.
The story of a warrior.
See anything?
The woman he loved. A daring outlaw.
The dock has become very active.
And a princess destined to become a warrior.
So, the dock has become a very active place where applications can even go as far as play movies. They can show status, they can communicate with you in any way that they choose. All right. Now, let's get into some of the fun new stuff. I am going to take a folder, and what I think I'm going to do is go to my home directory here and take my pictures folder, and I'm going to move it down into the dock. Now, normally I can go down into the dock and I can click on this and see my pictures folder. Really fast way to get to folders. But we've added something new based on people's feedback of wanting the functionality of the Apple menu. I can go down here and click and hold and get a pop-up of everything in that folder. Okay? I can even go to applications and get a click and get all my documents. Boom. There we go. So everything I've got in here, I can have multiple folders and drag stuff out. Well, how far does this go? Well, let me show you the ultimate. I can drag my hard disk down here. Right? I'll put it over here. That's my hard disk. I can go to Users, Avi, Pictures, bring up a picture. All righty. Thank you for these suggestions. They came from our users. Now, we've taken the Apple menu that used to be in the center of the screen, and we've moved it over to the left where it was. But we've changed it a bit. You know, right now when people think of Mac OS, they think of the Finder, don't they? Because you have to go to the Finder to do everything. You have to go to the Finder to even sleep, as an example, to quit. Everything's done through the Finder. And we see the Finder as just another app. You know, there may be multiple Finders someday. Some beginners may never even use the Finder. With email, you don't have to go to the Finder to find your email, right? So documents can manage their own files and present them to users in much more intuitive ways than a file system. And so we're going to be moving in that direction over time. And to take the first step, we've taken out a few of the features that you always have to go to the Finder to get. Like when you're in an application and you want to go to sleep or you want to quit or you want to log out, all you have to do now is go to the Apple menu. And we've got sleep, restart, shutdown, and log out from anywhere in the system. You no longer have to go back to the Finder. We all recent items, of course, right here, all your recent items, documents, applications, etc. We've moved the location manager up here, so you have all your locations right here, if you've got multiple locations set up. And you can turn magnification and auto-hide for the dock off and on, as well as get dock preferences or system preferences right from the menu up here. So that's the new Apple menu. New font panel. We got a lot of feedback that the font panel was too big. Well, one of the things we've done in the font panel is we've gone out and licensed some incredible new fonts. And as you know, we have collections of fonts. So we have some fun modern fonts here, Copperplate. And you'll notice things, of course, in the font panel, change documents in real time. Whoops, a little too big there. Change documents in real time. Helvetica, Futura, Copperplate, Dito. We've got some great classics here, Caslon, Gil Sans, and some fun fonts as well. Really great stuff here. Now, about the font panel, back to that. So we've made the font panel, so if you shrink it down, look what happens. You just get pop-ups, and you can even get rid of collections to where your font panel is very, very small, and you can leave it up all the time and do whatever you want with it. So that's the font panel. Last but not least, toolbars. We got a lot of feedback that the toolbars on the Finder and the other apps were just too big. We've made them dramatically smaller, as you can see here on the Finder. But we also got a lot of feedback that people wanted a status bar. We've allowed you to add a status bar here, show number of items, show how much space you have left on the disk if you want. So you can show and hide that. But the biggest piece of feedback we got was that different users wanted different things on the toolbars, whether it be in the Finder or Mail or Preferences, etc. And so we've made them all customizable. So you can go in and you can say, customize the toolbar, and we'll give you a range of things you might want to do here. I want to bring my movies up here. I want to bring the path up here. I want to move this over here. And maybe I'll bring music up here too, right? I'll even put customize up there. And I can view things as icon and text, or I can view them as icon only, or I can even view them as text only if I wanted to, but I like both. And so here's my new toolbar. And again, I've got my views right here, and I've also got my path right here if I want to get back anywhere, right? And of course, I can even go customize right from here. So I've got everything I want right there. And of course, I can And of course, I can even hide my toolbar, right? But we've got something even more fun. We got a lot of feedback that people love the new Finder, but some of them also love the old Finder. So let me go back here, back to computer, and let me navigate here to users, and I'm going to go into Avi again, and I'm going to go into pictures, and I'm going to open a picture. Now this is how the Finder works in macOS 10, and it doesn't litter your screen with a lot of windows. But if you want to litter your screen with a lot of windows, I'll just open it from the hard disk here. Whenever the toolbar is closed, and you click on something, it spawns a window. And so you can have it any way you want it. If you want it to work exactly like the old Finder, you got it. Okay. So that is macOS 10. Again, to review, new Apple menu, a lot of stuff on preferences, recent items, the ability to instantly go to sleep or log out from anywhere in the system. The dock, pop-up menus right off the folders and off applications listing all the open documents. The new toolbars, dramatically smaller, completely configurizable, customizable, and even hideable to where the windows work just like they did in macOS 9, spawning windows every time you go down a level. This is some of the features we've added to macOS 10. Now let's move on to applications. Because the minute we ship macOS 10, of course, the mantra is going to be carbonized applications, carbonized application. Again, when we go into frameworks, it's not the classic apps we're talking about because those all just run. So we have thousands of apps that run on macOS 10 from day one. But we're talking about the carbonized and Cocoa apps that take full advantage of all the macOS 10 features. So how are we doing on that? As of today, we have 400 developers committed, which represent over 1,200 brand name apps that are being worked on for release on macOS 10. Of those, 350 of them have been announced to date. That includes the 100 that are being announced this week alone. Now, the apps are going to come out over a time period. They're going to come out in a bell curve. We're going to have hundreds coming out this spring. The majority of them, the avalanche of them, is going to come out this summer. You can imagine Macworld July is going to be the coming out party for a lot of macOS 10 apps. And then we're going to have some laggards in the fall. So it's going to follow this bell curve. I'd like to show you one now that's coming out this spring that's amazing. It is probably the largest Mac app ever. It's actually larger than Mac OS X, and that is Alias Wavefront's Maya. So, we've been working closely with the Maya team. They're excellent, and I'd like to invite Richard Karras up on stage to show us Maya running on Mac OS X. Thanks.
Thank you. You know, Alias Wavefront customers are some of the most creative people on the planet. Let's take movies, for example. Last year, all of the films nominated for the Special Effects Academy Award used Maya, our 3D product for animation. As a matter of fact, 26 of the top 50 films of all time used Alias Wavefront products. And these images that you see here used Maya. Maya is for 3D, what Photoshop is for 2D. Now, Maya is a very sophisticated application. It has modeling, rendering, animation. It's got a full dynamic system. It's also got paint. It is the best tool for the film, video, games, and visual web markets. But all that power puts a lot of demand on the operating system. And I'm happy to tell you that the Mac OS X is performing like a champ. The combination of a G4, Maya, OS X is going to be awesome. Now, this is our very first Macworld, and we're really excited to be here. And we're just going to be able to give you a glimpse of our product here today, because we're going into beta in 4 weeks, and we're shipping this product next quarter. And we can't wait to take the creative professionals from the Apple Marketplace and bring them into our world of 3D. Now, with me today is Dan Pressman, and we're going to show you just a little bit of the kinds of things that you can do with Maya on Mac OS X. Dan?
Thanks, Richard. So the first thing I want to show you is how dynamics work in Maya. I'm going to show you a dynamic simulation here. We've got a wrecking ball set up above this stack of boxes. And you can see if I hit play, what I've done is simply said that I want gravity to affect the scene. You can see that as that swings down, it makes contact with the boxes, and we get a realistic dynamic simulation. Now I can stop that. I can scrub it backwards. We can see how that would form in reverse. And you can see we get really great interactive performance. I can also zoom in and tumble around this in real time.
Now, isn't that awesome? That's the Dynamics engine. That's the same Dynamics engine that was used in Star Wars Episode 1 for the pod race sequence. The whole thing was done using our Dynamics engine. And we can use that Dynamics throughout our application. But one of the things that's really key to us is the workflow. Workflow is king. And for us to take the 2D artists into our 3D world, we want to bring that kind of familiar workflow. So we have this technology called Maya Paint Effects, where you don't only just paint on a 3D object, you can actually create 3D objects by painting. So next up, let's show you some of the Maya Paint Effects.
Thanks again, Richard. Here we have another scene that I've set up. This is a little valley here. We've got some mountains and a lake. And I can just use Paint Effects to paint fully rendered plants directly into this scene. So you can see here we get real-time shadows. We're able to paint these in. You can see they actually grow as plants would, and we're able to actually animate that. Here you can see we have hundreds of different brushes that ship with the product. So you can see I can paint these in, and they all vary themselves randomly. So we can have subtle variations in color and shape, and all of these brushes can also contain animation. So you can see how quickly I can add these. You can see we can also use Paint Effects to do other types of paint brushes. So for example, I can just add clouds to the sky here. And you can see that they get painted in 3D behind the mountains. They behave properly. And again, all of these brushes can contain animation. I've gone ahead and rendered this out to QuickTime. And let's just take a look at how this looks in motion.
Thank you. Thank you. So there you have a glimpse of what is Maya. We invite you to come by our booth. We're going to have our customers there, some from Industrial Light and Magic, Digital Domain. They'll be showing the stuff that they do with Maya, and we'll be showing a lot more of Maya on Mac OS X. So thank you very much. Steve.
Isn't that awesome? Okay, so Maya is one of the apps that's coming out in the spring along with hundreds of others. The Avalanche will happen this summer with some laggards in the fall. I think we've got a great lineup of applications coming out for Mac OS X this year. So let's get to schedule. When can I buy Mac OS X? You will be able to buy Mac OS X at your favorite channel partner on Saturday, March 24th, in store. We're going to be shipping. We are taking the last several weeks to make sure this thing is absolutely solid. We're feeling very good about it right now. Saturday, March 24th. Price, $129. So March 24th, you'll be able to buy your copy of Mac OS X. Now, as I said earlier, the apps will come in a bell curve over the course of the year. We're going to be shipping Mac OS X right at the beginning of this bell curve. The avalanche of apps will happen this summer. And that's when we've decided to bundle Mac OS X on our systems, to preload it on our systems, is when the avalanche of apps starts to happen. So we will be preloading starting this July on all of our systems as the default OS. And you will be able to buy your copy starting Saturday, March 24th. And that is the schedule for Mac OS X. And we know that Mac OS X is really laying the foundation for the next decade and a half of our software efforts. And we think we've got something really good here. And I hope you love it as much as we do starting on March 24th. Okay, Mac OS X. What's next? Power Mac G4. Today, we're launching a whole new generation of Power Mac G4s. And the theme of this new generation is power to burn. Power to burn. Of course, the G4 is based on the PowerPC G4 chip, and you all know, as much as I, that we've been coasting along at 500 megahertz now for almost 18 months. That's too long, isn't it? So today, we're taking it up to 733. This is a new generation G4 chip that's delivering over 5.5 gigaflops of sustained performance. It's amazingly fast. And we're going to have 4 models of G4s. 4 models. Now, what do they all have in them? They all have a few things in them, so let me go through that first. They all have CD read-write drives in them to start with. We're late to this party, but we're here. Even at the entry-level systems. CD read-write standard in all models. We've got a new architecture in this machine that's really fast. 133 megahertz system and memory buses. We're getting over 1 gigabyte per second of sustained internal bandwidth in these systems. AGP4X for graphics. To get the fastest graphics systems possible with write combining, which is very important as well. And we're going to be adding NVIDIA graphics cards. We're going to be adding NVIDIA graphics cards in the top 3 models, GeForce 2MX standard in the top 3 models, AGP4X in all models. All models also have a new audio system in them with a 10-watt integrated digital amplifier, gigabit Ethernet on the motherboard, and all models now have 5 slots. Now, in addition to the 5 slots, we've made the PCI bus a lot faster. We've taken out the bridge and some other things, and it's dramatically faster. Now, 5 slots, we've been short-selling ourselves. We've been telling the world we had 3 slots, but the whole PC world counts the graphics slot as well. And so, the way everybody else counts slots, we've had 4 slots. We are upping the AGP to 4X, and we are adding a 4th PCI slot, so that every Power Mac now has 5 slots. And every new Power Mac is completely OS X ready, fully configured and certified to be a great Mac OS X machine. So 4 models, 466 megahertz up to 733. They are single processor machines. Why? Because if we wanted to wait to get enough 733s to make dual processors, we'd be talking to you in April instead of today. And we want to get these out to you as fast as we can, so they are single processor machines. However, we will be offering the 533 in a dual processor configuration that you or your channel partners can buy from Apple as a BTO config. But the standard configs are going to be single processor machines. So what are they? Processors, 466 to 733, 128 megabytes in the low end, all the way up to 256 in the high end, 30 to 60 gigabyte drives, Rage 128 in the low end, GeForce 2MX in the top 3 configs, CD read-write across the line, and here's the prices, $16.99 to $34.99. Now, what's this? What's this thing called a super drive? Well, this is huge. This is an industry first today. We've never seen anything like this before. And it's a big deal. So, there are 2 kinds of optical drives today, those that deal with CDs and those that deal with DVDs. A drive that reads CDs is called a CD-ROM drive. We're all familiar with that. That's what ships in most of the entry-level computers today. We've been shipping a drive called a DVD-ROM drive, which reads DVDs and CDs. But we missed something last year called the CD-ROM or CD read-write drive, which reads and writes CDs. You can't read DVDs, but a whole lot of people were willing to make that trade-off so they could write CDs. And it's been huge. Now, some people still want to read DVDs as well, so there's going to be some drives coming out this summer called combo drives that do all 3 of these. They read and write CDs and they read DVDs. But what about this last quadrant? That's right. That's called DVD-R. That's the ability to write a DVD with data and video, but video that DVD can be played on a consumer DVD player. Now, we think this is so important, but we don't want to give up the rest of it. We think CD read-write's important too. So we have been working with our partner Pioneer to come up with a drive that does all of these things, that reads and writes data and audio on CDs, and reads and writes data and video on DVDs that can be played in consumer players, just like the CD audio disc can be played in consumer players. And that drive is called the Super Drive. And it's a really big deal. And this is an industry first. Now, the Super Drive, a drive that could write DVDs, that could be read on consumer players, yesterday cost $5,000 for the drive alone. Starting today, it is bundled in with every new 733 megahertz Power Mac, where you get the whole computer and the Super Drive for $34.99. So, the new Power Mac G4s have the power to burn CDs, DVDs, oh yeah, and Pentiums too. So, well, is that really so? What about this Pentium 4 thing? We're at 733 megahertz, they're at 1.5 gigahertz. Do we have the power to burn them? Let's find out. Phil, I'd like to bring Phil Schiller out, our Vice President of Product Marketing. Phil, tell us what we have here today.
Morning, everyone. Well, we've got a heavyweight matchup. In the top left-hand corner of the ring, we've got the newest Power Mac G4 running at 733 megahertz, a svelte 733 megahertz. And on the right, we've got what people believe is the heavyweight champion, the new guy in the block, the brand new Intel Pentium 4, and it's got 1.5 gigahertz. I mean, that thing must just scream. So we're going to put these things in a heavyweight battle. And I think you know the best to use to test this stuff is the app our customers use the most to run their machines and run their business. Of course, that's Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop 6. We're going to run those side by side on these two machines. And of course, to make it fair, they run the same file, they have the same amount of memory. And with Photoshop, we can script through a bunch of actions that a real artist goes through in their job every day to get their work done. So let's see who gets the job done the fastest.
Our
Steve?
customers do this dozens and dozens of times a day. All righty. You ready?
Yes, let's bring up Photoshop. Now we're going to go through a 110 megabyte file with over 140 artist actions given to us by an artist for an actual movie poster they created.
All right,
So
count us down, Phil.
3, 2, 1, go. So you recognize this movie, a recent movie. We're bringing in multiple layers. We're using a bunch of transforms. We're adjusting color levels. We're moving and merging layers. Starting to blend them together using opacity and lighting effects. And the Mac is done.
All right, gigahertz and a half is done.
The undisputed champion, still reigning champion, Power Mac.
Thanks,
Thank
Phil.
you.
We've got a half a dozen of these things we can show you if we want, but every time we run them, the 733 toasts the gigahertz and a half Pentium. 24 seconds in this case for the G4 versus 36 seconds for the Pentium running at a gigahertz and a half. The G4 is 33% faster. Now this highlights the megahertz myth. Because when you compare megahertz from one processor family to another, it's like comparing apples and oranges, so to speak. And they don't compare. If we wanted to put everything into Intel megahertz, because the 733 is 33% faster, we'd have to call it a 2 gigahertz processor. And you can see that this megahertz thing has gotten out of hand. What matters is how fast the machines are.